because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, their parents' hell will slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams. The one they've picked, the one you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh, and know they love you. And you of tender years can't know the fears that your elders grew by, and so please help them with your youth. They seek the truth before they can die. Teach your children well, their parents' hell did slowly go by. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh, and know they love you.
Thank you. We would like to extend an especially warm welcome to those who are here for the first time. We are so glad you're here with us. Our greeter is dropping our connection card into the chat box if you'd like to complete that and connect to our community. This caring, supportive community has a pastoral care committee who works closely with our minister to provide support, care, and a listening ear. Please fill out the pastoral care card being dropped in the chat box if you would like the care team or Reverend Lora to reach out to you. There is also a link on our website. Our online services are intergenerational, and we have a religious exploration program whose director, Rebecca Brett, is happy to hear from you. Her email is in the chat box now. There is a lot happening here at South Valley, and the Happenings Weekly newsletter is a concise, up-to-the-minute way to stay connected. Lori Quigley's email is now in the chat box if you'd like to reach out to her to receive happenings. We are also active on Facebook and have an event calendar on our website. Save the date for Sunday, April 4th from 3 to 5 p.m. for South Valley's first annual Hunt for Justice. Join your South Valley friends on site at South Valley Outside for a new twist on traditional Easter activity. Kids up to age 12 are invited to find hidden eggs and use them to vote for their favorite of 3 charities. The winning charity will be the split offering recipient for July through August. While the eggs themselves will be empty, they are just used for voting. Your children will not leave empty-handed. Each participating child will receive a goodie bag to take home. We'll have hot chocolate and other treats to share as well. All members and friends are welcome to join us for this fun event. COVID-19 precautions will be in place. Everyone needs to wear their mask, and hand sanitizer will be available as well. Our annual pledge campaign, Blue Boat Home, is currently ongoing, and if you have not yet turned in your pledge, please take the time to complete your form as soon as you can. Pledging early and often helps to ensure that our ministries may thrive here at South Valley. Thank you to those of you who have already pledged. We're almost there. The pledge form is in the chat box and available on all our platforms. We will now take a moment to share the warmth of community. We will say hello to one another and then say our chalice lighting words together. They will be in the chat box. If you have a candle or chalice, please light it as we say those words in a moment. So first, please unmute yourselves and greet one another verbally or in the chat box. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello,
everybody.
everybody.
Hi, Sloan.
Hi.
Good to see you all.
Hi.
Jesse, where's your baby? Or is she all grown up now?
She's not here today.
Bonnie's taking a nap right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll show her to you when she's awake.
The babies are busy.
Hey, Helen.
Let us light our chalices. We invite you to stand in body, mind, or spirit as we say our chalice lighting words, and you can use our actions if you want. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action.
Good morning. I'm Elena Hendricks, and I am a member of the Board of Trustees here at South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. My pronouns are she and her. Come, whoever you are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin, you are welcome here. No matter your gender, whom you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. You are welcome here, whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears in your eyes, you are welcome here. No matter what you have experienced in the past, no matter what awaits you in the future, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God all of the time, or some of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. This is a community of open minds, loving hearts, and willing hands. You are welcome here at South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society.
I am the Reverend Lora Young. My pronouns are she and her. It is good to be together. I miss you being in this sanctuary, or rather I would say I look forward to being in this sanctuary with you when the time comes. And that time is slowly arriving, just like the spring and fits and starts, our reopening planning is actually beginning. A year ago, it seemed it would be just a few weeks, and then the community would be back together. And in the fall, it didn't even seem that planning would ever be able to begin. But the vaccine has begun to roll out. More and more of us are having access to that vaccine and coming up and participating in that. And it seems as if now we can begin to make those tentative first steps towards gathering again as a people in body and not just in these virtual online spaces. The board and I are happy to let the congregation know that as of now, going forward, if you or a committee would like, your committee would like to meet in our building, or a small group up to 20 people, you're welcome to do that in our building. Please do remember that you do need to reserve your space so that we know that you're going to be in the building. But we would like to welcome committees such as any of the social action committees or all the other committees. I'm not going to list them off here, that you're welcome to be in the congregation, in here in the sanctuary or down in the social hall. We do still need everyone to wear their masks. If you do happen to be in an all vaccinated group, of course, according to the CDC, you don't need to wear masks, but it is likely that most people are going to be in mixed vaccination groups. So we do ask that you continue to wear your mask and practice social distancing until a later time. We will be, over the next few weeks, determining what reopening for in-person worship as well as religious education looks like. So stay tuned as we sit and discern what the best plan is for coming up with that. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself and to Rebecca Britt, our DRE, as we get further along in that process. So now let us come formally into a deeper time of worship and reflection. This week was, like so many weeks, tragic and heartbreaking. We stand in solidarity with the Asian community across this entire nation, but especially those in Florida who lost their beloved friends and sisters in a terrible act of violence. It is too long that people of color have had to wait for justice. Have had to wait for a time and a place and an ability just to be themselves and to be safe. We stand with them, and we will do what it takes in order to make it so these types of hate crimes are no more. I ask you just to join me in a moment of silence in grieving together yet another loss of life at the hands of white supremacy culture. Amen. As we move into this season of spring, it seems important to ask, what is it that this last season has brought us, and what will we bring forth into the next? This has been a long COVID winter, and we are beginning to emerge. So this time and this service is dedicated to the art of emergence. Our opening poem is written by Donna Markova, and you may be familiar with it. It is entitled, "Will Not Die, an Unlived Life." She writes, "I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days. I choose to inhabit my days to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to open and loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live so that which came to me as seed goes to the next as blossom, and that which came to me as blossom goes on as fruit." Let us settle deeply and have these words rest in our heart as we prepare to create together a time of sacred community. Let us sing our opening hymn. Our Zoom runner will share her screen and the lyrics will be on screen. It is number 368, "Now Let Us Sing." And it is a gift that we are able to share with you, that it is your own voices that you will hear during our hymn.
Now let us sing, sing to the sing, sing, sing. Now let us sing, sing to the sing, sing, sing. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the faith within. Now let us sing, sing to the sing, sing, sing. Now let us sing, sing to the sing, sing, sing. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the hope within. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the love within. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the joy within.
Nice. Good song.
I'm excited to share our Time for All Ages this morning. This is My Heart by Karina. My heart. My heart is a window. My heart is a slide. My heart can be closed or opened wide. Some days it's a puddle. Some days it's a stain. Some days it's cloudy and heavy with rain. Some days it's tiny. But tiny can grow. And grow. And grow. There are days it's a fence between me and the world. Days it's a whisper that can barely be heard. There are days it's broken. But broken can mend. And a heart that is closed can again. My heart is a shadow, a light, and a guide. Closed or open, I get to decide. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. What a lovely story. This community, our church, and its many ministries are only made possible by the gifts you give of your time, your talent, and your treasure. Many of you pledge monthly to support our work, and for this we're grateful. Your gifts help to ensure that we are able to live our values of love and justice in the world outside. Part of our ministry at South Valley includes sharing our Sunday worship offerings with a charitable organization that aligns with our principles and values. Your gift today will support the work of South Valley and Tree, Utah. Since 1988, Tree Utah has worked towards improving Utah's quality of life for present and future generations by enhancing our environment through tree planting, stewardship, and education. Since 1988, Tree Utah has planted nearly 400,000 trees across the state. While giving us beauty and comfort, trees improve our quality of life and the sustainability of our planet. Our collections will be donated to the Re-Tree Salt Lake City program, which is being implemented by Tree Utah in partnership with Salt Lake City and aims to replace hundreds of trees lost in our public spaces during the September 2020 windstorms. Please give generously. We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together, we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts.
The offering piece today is a prelude by Johann Sebastienbach, who was born on March 21st, 1685.
Thank you, David, and happy birthday, Johann, wherever it is you travel these days, these many centuries later. We still take great delight in your music. For all that we have received and all we have found the courage to give, may these gifts be a blessing to South Valley and to Tree, Utah. At this time, let us enter into a time of sharing our joys and our sorrows with one another. You're invited to use the chat box to enter in a cares and sorrows, joys and celebrations be joined into our communal space. I'll drop one final stone in the water. Please join me now in a time of meditation, reflection, or prayer. An anonymous offering, a prayer written by someone somewhere at some time. I do not know. And they write for this time and in this place. Spirit, I am afraid of nearly everything. Of darkness, of hunger, war, of children mutilated. But most of all, I am afraid of what I might become. Reconciled to injustice, resigned to fear and despair, lulled into a life of apathy. Unchain my hope. Unchain my hope and make me strong. Stretch me towards the impossible that I may work for what ought to be. The hungry fed, the enslaved freed, the suffering comforted, and peace accomplished. Sacred Heart of the world, we ask that you mend us together ever stronger, so that this beloved community receives seeds, blossoms, and fruit, and passes them on in turn. Let us be silent with one another.
The beginning of my South Valley story is a refrain that's familiar to many of us. Came for the children, ended up staying for myself. So there is no need to retread that familiar path. Instead, I want to talk about why I stay and why I choose to devote my time, talents, and treasure to the task of keeping this community alive and thriving for those who come after me. I stay because South Valley is for me a place of safety. It's a place where I am safe to love whom I love, believe as I see fit to believe, and doubt and question without judgment. I stay because South Valley is a refuge of hope when the world's trajectory threatens to drown me in despair. But South Valley is not a passive refuge. It's not a refuge that depends on simply praying to a higher power in the hopes that it will see fit to come down and intervene on our behalf. Nope, South Valley's hope is mighty. Its hope is active. Our hope takes seriously the adage that the Lord, and I invite you in Grand UU tradition to insert whatever power you draw upon here, but that the Lord helps those who help themselves. South Valley gives me a community and the tools to act to change the world for better, whether that change is local or national or global. It's not just a feel-good moment on Sundays. Although I will say that we should not discount the power of those moments that give us strength to continue to create the changes that we seek. I stay because South Valley allows me to celebrate and embrace our differences rather than pretend they do not exist. It provides me a platform to learn and grow from butting up against those differences and then pushing past them, opening up fabulous new paths that I never before imagined existed. It's a place that understands that peace without justice is no peace, and that while sacrifices might be necessary to obtain that just peace, it will dedicate itself to making sure that those sacrifices are not in vain. In short, I stay at South Valley because at South Valley, I am empowered to continue to grow and to help others to grow. And I give because I want to ensure that it continues to be that garden of growth for years and years and years to come. In the end, I have come to believe that that is what this community and this wonderful, fabulous, madcap life we're all in is all about. Thank you. Lora, you're muted.
It's better to unmute. You can hear me better when I do that. As I said, thank you, Shannon. You're always inspiring with your words, and it's a joy to share space with you and all of the other worship participants this morning. Writing of her poem, I Will Not Die, an Unlived Life, as I shared with you in our call to worship this morning, Donna Markova wrote that we are forever on the cusp of something, and this something is in fact the ongoing discovery of who we really are, And I like to emphasize that who we actually are, who we really are, is far different than who we think we should be, or who others often wish that we were. And this emphasis on discovering who we really are can serve to remind us that it is not just wholeness that we seek, but that wholeness is not a one-sided, all-light endeavor. That wholeness encompasses the entirety of who we are. As is often said, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And today's service is about how do we trim, how do we notice, and how do we tend to those aspects of ourselves that we'd really rather not deal with. The grumpiness, the irritation, the frustration, the anxiety, the resentment, the anger, the jealousy, the sadness, the depression, the trickiness of life that we wish would somehow sometimes just not be present so that we could just get on with our lives. But the path to wholeness, the path to spiritual maturity and wisdom is unfortunately peppered with those tricky pebbles under our feet. It has been said of religious community many times that church is the place that people think they're going in order to be uplifted and inspired. And that is true, but it is also the place that the people who irritate you the most are going to show up. So let us dive into this place together in all its wildness and its journey, and notice that we have the opportunity to interact with both the good, the bad, the ugly, the unfortunate, the joyful, and that all of these can be our teachers as we walk this path together. It occurs to me that as we begin to emerge from this pandemic time, this COVID winter, that in many ways our shadows have functioned as a way to protect us. There's been so much to adapt, to endure, to manage, and to accept in this last year. And in times of stress, such as we have been in, our shadows function as an escape valve, allowing us to set aside and to hold together and manage our stress and our awareness so that we can cope. This process is often referred to as compartmentalization. And it often gets a bad reputation because people think, well, you're so compartmentalized and you're not integrated. But compartmentalization can actually be a very healthy response to a stressful or traumatic series of events. And it is useful and necessary and even good, as long as we can then go forth to create a space and a time to unpack. When we don't properly unpack that compartmentalized pieces, that is when those nagging emotions that we set to the side or put in the shadow can come back up and begin to eat our hearts from the inside out. So today's call is a call to notice. What have you been putting perhaps in your shadow? What have you been setting aside? And how safe do you feel to take a peek? And what do you need in order to unpack just a little bit as we begin to emerge from the winter into the spring? When we celebrated our winter solstice at the turn of the year, it was a time of going deep into the earth, of allowing those seeds to be covered for a time, allowing those seeds to build up their energy and their nourishment so that when the thaw came, there might be opportunity for there to be new blooms. Today we mark the second day of spring. And in true Utah fashion, as I have been told, it's snowing. We saw some sun and some wind, and today we see some snow. And that temperamental process of winter turning towards summer, this time of spring, where everything is tumultuous and turned upside down, making space for the new, is, I think, a great metaphor for how are we going to emerge as a community from this pandemic winter into a time when we may gather again, both safely and with confidence. There will be many twists and turns along this path. Steps forward, steps to the side, anxieties and concerns, joys at reconnection. And if we can hook to ourselves this metaphor of spring, this forward and backwards, sideways and upside down, perhaps we'll be able to navigate this in a more calm and deliberate fashion. I can tell you that over the last few weeks, this push and this pull has showed up in interesting ways in our world community. Some of us in our community who are vaccinated are feeling such joy at being able to reconnect with friends and family. And as we do so, sometimes we might notice that there is a little bit of anxiety or concern. We may wonder, what does this summer bring? And the answer is, of course, that we do not know what is in store. All we can do is to pin our hopes and our faith into the good work of this community, and to know that as we emerge from this, we will begin to take baby steps into that time when we can be gathered again. That image that was shown in the slide deck this morning, that of an open hand with soil and a sprout coming up, can also serve as a metaphor for how we go forward in this time. The hand is open. The hand is open. Because a hand that is open is a hand that can receive, that can care, and that can touch. As we go forth in this time, may we remember to hold our hands open. The image also had the good soil in it. Soil that is nourished, soil that can give life to seed, to blossom, and to fruit. And at the center of that image, a new sprouting forth. May these three images perhaps be a guide for us. Open hands, nourished, fertile soil, and new life arising in us. May we remember when our hands and our hearts feel closed, to relax and to open. A few weeks ago, a friend of mine said that this time is confusing for her, that she remembers there being a time in the past when it felt somehow easy to get to joy, but that she notices that joy is side by side right now with hesitation, that she feels as if she stands at a threshold, wondering if it is safe and if it is time to go forward. It occurs to me that part of the barrier to crossing that sort of threshold right now has to do with this collective experience that we have been having that has caused changes in how we are together. And that these changes, while they are changing rapidly, the feelings that are associated with them may not recede as quickly as we expect. Many of us have reported having dreams over the last few months of being worried in crowds of people that are unmasked. Those dreams are an indication of our collective psyche and this desire that we have to move forward into something new, but this hesitation is still there. These things will take time to reduce. However, it does seem quite fitting that emergence in this post-vaccine world, this post-pandemic world, is happening in the springtime, a time of great tumultuousness and change. Our call in this space and in this moment is to notice what our own hearts need, as well as what the hearts of others might be needing at this time. There's an old parable that was told to me once in which a traveler comes to a river that is swollen with the melted snow. The traveler has been on a very long journey and they are tired, and crossing seems rather treacherous. As the traveler stands at the edge of the river, the question is asked, how to cross and when? Does she wade in and trust her swimming skills? Does he travel up a bit farther in search of a better crossing? Do they build a boat with the material at hand? Do they wait for the water to calm? If she makes the wrong decision, she may drown. But none of the options is free of risk wholeheartedly. And that parable ends right there. Like most stories, it ends abruptly and is the prompt for a deeper inquiry. The question is now, as we are on this cusp of emerging into a post-pandemic world, how will we get across? And the inquiry is to ask, and the invitation is to wonder not about the water temperature or the building materials or the skillfulness of a swimmer. The invitation is this: can you pause at the side of the river long enough to notice which of those options you have already begun? Have you already jumped into the water? Are you looking around to build a boat? Or are you sitting calmly waiting for the water to recede? Whatever it is that automatic reaction is, that is the moment, if you can notice it, that awareness can begin. Because the automatic response is not always the most beneficial response. We've never been here before. We have never been on the other side of a pandemic. It's been 100 years. Our collective memory of a pandemic is only historical at this point. And we are called in this moment to sit down and to discern and to collectively decide how we will move forward. This last year has been filled with opportunities to notice, to respond, and to tend the neglected parts of our community and our world. And there have been some pretty deeply rooted weeds that we have noticed. The twin concerns for racial justice and a strong democracy in this context of COVID with its own devastating consequences is more than enough evidence that now is the time to act. But to act well means we cannot rush to cross, or we will unwittingly recreate the same conditions on the other side that are present here. Therefore, perhaps we can call one another to sit for a moment before we begin our building project or our swimming to ask, where is the suffering in ourselves, in one another, and in our world? And who are we as a people called to be in this time? Not who we think we ought to be, not who we perhaps used to be, but what does this time and this context call for us to be right here and right now? Our brothers and sisters of color are asking us to be present right now, to listen and to respond and to be led by their voices and their actions. Will we listen? Will we have the courage to not dive in and swim to the middle of the river? Will we have the courage to not build a boat before asking whether or not a boat is even needed? That's up to us. That is up to us. I believe that now is a time to devote ourselves to deeper discernment. Mary Oliver once wrote that attention is the beginning of devotion. Attention is the beginning of devotion. Devotion as a noun refers to profound dedication or earnest attachment to a cause, a person, or a deity. As we emerge from the long winter of pandemic life, perhaps one skill we may wish to bring forth with us into, across, over, and through the river is an attitude of earnest attachment and profound dedication to the whole of who we are, such that what we produce individually and collectively is good fruit, one that delights and nourishes us for the road ahead. A good fruit is a whole fruit, and good hearts are similarly whole. South Valley is a community dedicated to the proposition that we are stronger together than we are apart, and that what we do here matters. And wholeheartedness is that good soil upon which we cast and tend our seeds. We are on the precipice of gathering together as a body. And as we begin to plan for this, my hope is that each and all will bring to this process an open and loving heart, a mind open to possibility and surprise, and a spirit willing to find a way together. The evidence is already all around us, popping up throughout this last year, and a dedication that is awe-inspiring to watch. I know that if we do this, if we continue to do this work together, our emergence into this new space and this new time will be one filled with joy. And that joy will be finally something that we can delight and celebrate with one another. I invite you just to pause for a moment right here. Turn off your camera if you wish, and just be. Be in this collective space, knowing that this sanctuary is yours, is ours, and that we are beginning to emerge again. May this goodness take deep root in your heart. From seed to blossom to fruit, again and again, threading this generation to the past and to the next, as South Valley continues to be a beacon of hope and a place of joy for all those who would gather here. May it be so. And amen.
Okay, wait, she'll introduce.
Let us sing together our final hymn. Our Zoom runner will share the screen. It's number 1007. There's a river flowing in my heart.
Let us now extinguish our communal chalice. You're invited to unmute yourself, stand and say our chalice extinguishing words together. We have put the words in the chat box if you'd like to follow along. We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of unity, the light of truth, or the energy of action. We hold each other in our hearts until we meet again.
Blessed be.
And now we will have our postlude.
I suspect we may be having some technical difficulties with our postlude. So let's just be patient and let Mary and David come back online. Okay, well, perhaps we should just do the benediction, give Mary and David a chance to join us for their postlude in a moment when they work out their technical difficulties. Worship is always an adventure here at South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. So as we prepare to go forth from this time, my heart walks with you. I invite your heart to walk along with me. And together, may we find our way, rooted deeply in the soil, reaching up for the sun, allowing the wind and the weather to not deter us from our collective goal and our vision of love and justice. May you be well, may you be whole, and may there be a song of joy in your heart today and in all days that reminds you, you matter and you are welcome here. Go forth now and be a blessing unto the world. Amen and blessed be. I invite us now to take a short break for a